Hi everyone, this is Katie Groves, and I think I've used this exact phrase before in a video, but I'm going to do so again. I am having a horrifically hard time trying to record this. A lot of stuff has gone wrong with my phone, with my environment, and internally I am doing such heavy deprogramming and integration work right now. Probably isn't the best time for me to do this. But at the same time, I feel like I may be in a unique position to speak more deeply and more emotionally than usual. So hopefully I will be able to make a video that I'm satisfied with. And really, hopefully this will be it, because I am tired of starting over and over again on this. So I left off part 1 talking about my name and how I wish to be called Katie and only Katie by you guys. I know that parts of me have introduced themselves by other names on this channel, but at this point in our integration process, we are pretty deeply aligned with the name Katie, and unless a part ends up introducing themselves by a different name, at which point it would be appropriate to refer to them as such, I ask that everybody call me Katie, like I said. I have not watched Carly's videos since the one she made about us. I did look at some of the comments, and it seems like she did talk about us in a more recent video again. There was a comment that suggested that she said that it was abusive for us to ask that. And I know better than to assume that any comment, unless it's from someone I know personally who I trust, is reflective of what was actually said. But if that was said in the video, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that. But I know that my boundary is valid, and I'm going to continue to maintain it. I would also like to be clear that, based on everything I said in part 1 of this video, it should be inferred that I do not necessarily blame Carly for anything that she says in her videos. And I want Carly to know, if she's watching this, that we only come from a space of empathy. We have only ever come from a space of empathy about all this. And we do not say that to be patronizing. We mean that in the sincerest of ways. I have looked at the comments on Carly's channel, as well as, of course, mine, for a while, and on the subject of patronizing, I think that's one of the hardest things in coming forward, is dealing with the subtle emotional gaslighting that so many people perpetrate, both MK handlers and people just in the truth community as a whole. I saw so many people commenting on Carly's videos, telling her that she needs to quote-unquote get help. And people have said those kinds of things to me before, and I can feel the aggression, the passive aggression, and the genuine hatred that flows through a lot of those comments. And it's very hard. It's very hard to be patronized, especially when talking about such horrific trauma. I've been thinking a lot today about what I want to say in this video. And it seems like I'm not capable of saying much about Carly's video about me, about what she said about Uncle Sam's. I don't think that I can get the words out about that at all right now. So I think I'm just going to speak more generally and just say that coming forward about this stuff is agony. Being an MK Ultra victim is the worst kind of horror and agony imaginable. And I wish so much that people in the truth community were more able to look at people like me and Carly with empathy, and to not be so desperately hung up on whether or not every single word we speak is absolute truth, whether or not we are right about everything, whether or not we remember everything correctly, and whether or not we are fully free from accessing. And I wish that more people would just take a step back and just feel deeply the shattering reality of MK. And I wish that more people would have respect for those of us who try, regardless of whether we do everything perfectly. I have worked so unfathomably hard to speak the truth on this channel with everything that I do, with everything that I have. I have put so much into meditating on every memory before I speak on it. I've put so much into working with my system, into deprogramming, into surviving every day in the face of the ongoing targeting that I experience, the ongoing torture that I endure. And yet despite, and I say this without ego, but despite being one of the most blatantly strong and capable survivors in the community who's spoken out, I have been viciously picked apart and had my recovery challenged in every moment. I have had people try to bait me into destroying myself, into going back into MK in so many different ways, both people within and outside of MK Ultra, through comments, through emails. And it has been unfathomably challenging for me to maintain my freedom from MK in the face of it. And so with me being one of the strongest, most intelligent, and capable members of my group, I don't have the words for the horror of what people who are less strong or capable have to go through. And I'm not really trying to talk about Carly here. I want to be clear. I'm not trying to insult Carly or anything. I'm speaking more generally, but I do have Carly on my mind when I say this, as I see that she appears to be struggling with accessing on a much deeper level than me. And I just feel such agony knowing that if it's this hard for me, what chance do most other people in the community have? When people make the decision to get online and harass victims of MK Ultra who come forward, they're making a decision to use words as weapons in the most cutting and potent ways imaginable. Oftentimes, I'm sure, beyond the realm of their own imagination, as usually it is ignorance of the horror of MK that compels people to do this. It is fear of the truths that us victims have to share, and it is fear of having black and white thought structures broken down. Because that is what us MK Ultra survivors really do, wherever we are with our recoveries, whether we are fully deprogrammed or hardcore controlled opposition, we challenge people's core beliefs. We challenge the simplicity of so many people's worldviews, and we force them to think critically about the worst kind of trauma in ways that I'm sure deeply hurt. Being an ally to the MK survivor community is no small task. I can only imagine what it must be like to hear about these things and to try to stretch one's brain around these things when one has not been through them themselves. And so I understand that for many people, being an ally to my community is just not possible. However, when people make the decision to actually harass us, it cuts me to the core. I often think about my path, my recovery path from MK Ultra, my whole life going through it. It was like me climbing mountain after mountain through the worst kind of pain imaginable. I often, with dark humor, imagine going through all these trials and tests like I'm in some sort of fantasy novel, like, say, Lord of the Rings, like perhaps I'm Frodo. And I imagine myself, let's say in this Lord of the Rings analogy, getting to the cracks of Mount Doom with the ring. And all I have to do in order to cast the ring into the fire is be received by a handful of people who have absolutely no conception of what it has taken for me to get there. And as I'm standing there shaking, covered in blood, burned, in just the worst kind of agony from such horrendous sleep deprivation, such horrendous emotional torture as I have faced the deepest, darkest realities of the shadow of mankind. And there's a crowd of people around me standing, laughing, telling me that nothing I have to say is of merit because my hair is too short, or because my politics are too foreign, too leftist, or because I'm female, or because of whatever people choose to use to pick me and others like me apart. And the tragic irony and horror of it is that the people standing around me, preventing me from dropping the ring into the fire, are about to fall into the fire themselves. And all they have to do is get out of my way, and if I can just drop the ring into the fire will disappear. And I recognize how grandiose this whole analogy sounds, and a lot of it comes from the fact that I'm actively reading and thinking about Lord of the Rings right now. But I just feel like it being so grandiose, it kind of casts a light on the irony and the agony of it all. So much of my own survival rests on my ability to be received by you guys. And while, of course, I'm talking about the worst of my viewership with the best of my viewership in mind, if you know what I mean, I'm still, I don't really have the words. It's just so hard going through MK. Being somebody like me, being somebody like Carly, going through all this horror and trying to reach people in some way. And yet in the midst of having to navigate the worst sort of labyrinths of our own minds, people stand on the sidelines having no concept of it, laughing and pointing, telling us that nothing we have to say about it is of merit because of the way we look or the way we talk. Or because, God forbid, we switch dissociative states and say something inconsistent. That one really gets to me. One of the most common weapons used against us survivors who come forward is the word inconsistency. Because as we switch dissociative states, we will express different perspectives on things. We may even express different timelines about our traumas from one part to the next. And in no way does that mean we are lying. In no way does that mean that we are fully not credible. It just means that we are dissociative, as of course we as MK victims are. Even those who come from MK who don't develop the ID still tend to have some kind of dissociation from the trauma. And it can cause us to say things that conflict from one moment to the next as we switch. And my God, this fly is unfucking believable. I'm sorry. I have been trying to ignore it, but it's part of why I've been having such a problem making this video. It has been bothering me from the moment I started trying to record. And it just does not want to go anywhere. So, yes, inconsistency. What a wonderful word used to try to discredit us. The very symptom that we went through MK, the biggest symptom of all, that we have DID, is used in order to try to express some kind of notion that we didn't go through it to begin with. So, my video is going to time out. I feel like I've really lost my train of thought a lot here because of drama. But I hope that what I have to say here is received. And I really hope that Carly, if you watch this, you understand that I stand with you. And that I love you and that I support you. And that I will always have you in my heart.